Hello, aspiring civil servants. Guys, do you find the paper of essay writing in UPSC a challenging one? Do you feel that it is very difficult to decode the metaphors that are used in UPSC's essay topics? Do you feel that it is very challenging to actually articulate your ideas on the paper in given time? Do you find it daunting to argue your opinion on the given topic? Then don't worry. A lot of aspirants face these and many other difficulties regarding this paper of essay writing. But the mistake that a lot of aspirants make is that they, for these fears and mental blocks, keep on postponing the practice of writing essays. The more they postpone, the bigger these fears and mental blocks grow. And this becomes a vicious cycle. So much so that I have seen and met several aspirants who hardly wrote one essay before the actual main examination. This can be very suicidal, guys. Every civil services aspirant worth his salt knows the crucial significance of this paper in the scheme of the exam. Scoring well in essay is one of the sure shot ways of actually scaling and getting into the final list. And for this reason, you need to develop a little bit of skill, some ideas, techniques, frameworks, which will enable you to deal with this challenge of writing essays, especially on philosophical, quote, or abstract types of topics. Increasingly in the recent years, UPSC has shown a trend of asking these kind of topics. And therefore, we need to brace ourselves. We need to get ourselves ready to handle these kind of topics. Let me assure you, with a little bit of practice, with a little bit of getting things into your muscle memory, as they say, you can very well tackle these topics and score exceptionally well in the essay paper. If you see the marks of last year's candidates, the bell curve of essay scores has actually flattened out. Now we see a very huge variability in scores of essay. Now this is a challenge as well as an opportunity. If you're able to write a good essay, then you can very well fetch the same marks as it used to be earlier. 135, 140, even higher marks than that. And if you perform poorly, then the examiner is punishing rather, without, in a heartless manner. This has led to a big gap in the scores of candidates. This has further enhanced the role of essay as a decider. Because if you get a big leverage of 35-40 marks, then it can catapult your rank over others by several hundreds. And therefore, it is important that we try to enhance our skill set regarding writing essays. And apart from skill set, you also need the right mindset to approach the essays. In this particular video, I, Jawwad Kazi, will be sharing with all of you certain key insights that you must remember while writing essays. We will take up a previous year's topic and try to apply a step-by-step methodology or framework regarding approaching philosophical topics. This will ensure that you are able to get hands-on understanding regarding how these ideas actually work out with the topic that UPSC itself has asked. I hope that gets you excited, guys. With that out of the way, let us now dive deeper and see what exactly we are going to do and what topic we are going to discuss in today's lecture. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss the topic asked in 2022. You cannot step twice in the same river. You cannot step twice in the same river was a topic that was asked in 2022. We will take up this topic and discuss it threadbare. In this session, we will try to have tips regarding all the stages that you will go through in the actual exam hall. The first stage is selection, where you select a topic. Second stage is ideation, where you do your rough work. And the last stage is articulation. So each of these three stages is crucial: selection, ideation, and articulation. Let us get into all of these nitty-gritties now. All right. Now, when we talk about essay writing, we must first have a common understanding regarding what exactly entails essay writing as far as civil services exam is concerned. For this purpose, I'm going to share with you on the screen a pithy definition that I have crafted regarding what is essay writing from exam perspective. This definition will try to succinctly present before you what exactly you are trying to achieve with the given topic. Trust me guys, a lot of students have certain misunderstandings at a very fundamental level regarding what essay actually expects of you. What kind of treatment you need to give to it. A lot of aspirants are not able to get that. And through the definition, I will try to exfoliate some of these ideas over here. Let us try to see what the definition says. What is essay? Essay is the crafting of. I'll read it out and then I'll go into the details one by one. Clear. Number 2, concise. Number 3, compelling. Number 4, captivating. 5, coherent. And 6, comprehensive. These are the 6 C's. 6 C's. Comprehensive opinion piece on the given topic. Let us take up each of these aspects one by one quickly so that we are on the same page regarding what they mean. First and foremost, what we have to understand is that essay writing for UPSC is writing your opinion piece, an argumentative opinion piece on the given topic. It is not a narrative or a descriptive essay. A lot of aspirants make the mistake of not actually coming to an opinion about the topic and arguing it. They just keep on piling example after example after example, which proves the topics. You're not there to do that. You have to have your opinion, which is very clearly articulated and then supported with the help of arguments. That is what essay writing is all about. If you don't have an opinion in the first place, then what are you going to argue about? So the starting point is, after understanding the topic, you must have a view, a considered opinion, a stance on the given topic, which you are going to argue in the course of the essay. This is the first thing that I want you to understand, that essay writing for civil services examination primarily is arguing your opinion on the given topic. I hope you got that point very clearly. Now, when you argue your opinion, how should that go about? For that, your opinion piece has to be number 1, having clarity. Clarity is at 2 levels, guys. Clarity at the level of your thoughts. Clarity is first at the level of your thoughts. And secondly, it is about your articulation. A lot of students are not able to understand the topic very well, and therefore their thoughts themselves are confused. They are hazy. And consequently, what they write also becomes a very hazy kind of a piece. It is very clear to see whether you have understood the topic or no. Within just a few sentences, the examiner can make out whether your ideas, your thoughts are clear or no. So the first thing that our opinion piece must have is that it must have complete clarity. What you think about the topic, what are your views, and how you are going to argue about it. You need to have clarity about that. That is one. Clarity at the second level is in terms of articulating your ideas. Whatever is there in your mind, are you putting it across in a manner that the reader is also perceiving it in the same way? A lot of students have good ideas, but then there is a bottleneck when it comes to expressing those ideas. If there is that bottleneck, then despite the brilliant ideas that you might be having, the examiner will not be able to relate with them. And for this reason, we need to have effective articulation. High sounding word, I know, but let me explain it in a very simple way. What is meant by effective articulation? Effective articulation is the straight line that connects your thoughts, ideas to the text that you have written, to the interpretation of the examiner or reader. If your thoughts, your text, and the interpretation of those thoughts and ideas is in the same line, then in that case we can say that you have articulated effectively. Okay, let me repeat again. It is about your thoughts, your text, and the interpretation of the text being in straight line, being connected. That is what is meant by effective articulation. Now, for this effective articulation, you don't need to have a pompous, flowery, or a showy kind of a language. In fact, the more simple you write, the more effective your articulation becomes. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. UPSC has said that in one of the papers earlier. And that applies to essay like perhaps nowhere else. You need to write in such a simple manner that even a 16-year-old person can understand what you're trying to put across. You will not be there before the examiner to explain your ideas. It will be your paper alone. He cannot seek explanation from you like your mentor can. Getting this idea? So you need to have very clear, effective kind of writing to convey what you think to the reader or the examiner. This is the first aspect regarding essay, whether there is clarity or no in this opinion piece. Number one. Number two is conciseness and preciseness. Okay? What is meant by conciseness and preciseness? It is the skill or ability to express one's idea in minimum number of words and with choosing apt words for what you are saying. Conciseness is saying a lot more in less number of words, not being there about beating around the bush. Come to the point straight and express the idea clearly and effectively in as less words as possible. That is conciseness. We sometimes need to get over the practice that sometimes develops in our college exams, where we try to write more content hoping that the verbosity will get you the marks. In civil services examination, beating around the bush does not fetch you good marks. If you are sharp in terms of what you are saying, if you are there within the scope, only then you are going to get good marks. So we have to bring in conciseness, less number of words, more meaning. And preciseness. Preciseness means using the right words for the right expression. This is the second aspect. Third and very crucial is compelling. What is meant by compelling? The word compelling comes from the root word pel. And pel, guys, means force. Compelling means the content that you have written is forceful, meaning it is convincing to the reader about your opinion. The kind of weight, the kind of force that your arguments have actually make your essay a compelling one. The arguments are so strong, so logically organized, so well supported by evidence that the reader is convinced that yes, this makes sense. That is what is being compelling. Since you are giving your opinion, it is your duty to convince the reader about your opinion by giving compelling arguments. That is the next C, compelling, that is third C. Fourth is captivating. Captivating means your essay must have such content that it holds, rivets the attention of the reader. Compellingness makes your essay more, you can say, forceful. It makes it more, if to borrow a word from Hindi, it makes it more asardar. Whereas in case of captivatingness, it makes it more interesting. It makes it more mazedar. So your write-up has to be both. It has to be asardar, damdar, and at the same time, it has to be captivating, means it has to be interesting. It has to be mazedar also. How we make it interesting? We will talk about that as we go ahead. Bringing in stories, quotes, evidences, example, data, all of these things make our essay captivating. This is the fourth C. Then comes the fifth C, which is coherent. What is meant by coherence? Coherence means your entire essay must be a single organic whole. It must have a single point of gravity, which is your opinion, and the entire essay is based on that. It should not be like one part of the essay is talking about something and the other part of the essay is talking quite the contrary. That leads to lack of coherence. We want a person who is an integrated whole in his thought process, and that is reflected in your essay. If you have an opinion and your entire essay revolves around that opinion, then we can say that it's an organic whole, it's a coherent piece as such. It shows higher order thinking. This is coherence. And then lastly, comprehensive. Your take on the essay must not be just one-sided. It has to be comprehensive. Are you able to see the other side of your opinion? Are you able to see the future challenges? Are you able to give certain solutions and ideas? Can you connect it to India's specific context? All of these things make your essay a comprehensive one. So when we are able to bring in these 6 C's, clear, concise, compelling, captivating, coherent, and comprehensive in the given time span of 90 minutes for one essay, then we say that it is the crafting of an effective essay. It requires a little bit of practice, but much less than the amount of energy and time that we spend on our conventional papers. Yes, essay will require some effort, but it will give you more than disproportionate result than what efforts in other papers would give you. So don't hold yourself back and prepare for this paper more effectively. Before I get into how you can go about preparing for this paper, let me tell you that the new batches for StudyIQ IAS are starting very shortly. We are starting new batches for 2024. The batches are going to be in English, Hindi, and English medium, that is a combination of the two, from 22nd of July. We already have morning and evening batches running right now, and the next one, the new one, is starting from 22nd of July, which is going to be an evening batch with lectures starting at 6 p.m. These batches are going to be a one-stop solution for your entire civil services preparation journey. In the first leg of this batch, we are going to deal with the foundation building for civil services exam, from prelims as well as mains perspective in an integrated manner. Then as we approach prelims, a special program for prelims, that is success in prelims, will start, which will give you a test series, hands-on practice for MCQs, and a lot more to ensure your success in the prelims exam. The prelims exam will be followed by a mains residential program, free of cost completely, in Delhi, so that those students who qualify for the mains examination, their preparation can be fine-tuned and their success can be ensured. That will be part of this program itself for the students who clear the prelims examination. That's mains residential program. And then after that, in the third stage, when students qualify for the next level, there will be an interview guidance program also. There are a lot of benefits in these batches, guys. Mentoring, a lot of tests, current affairs program on a daily basis, and a lot more. All of these things can be availed at a very reasonable price. The price of the batch is 70,000 rupees, but using my code JD Live, you can get a special discount and avail this general studies batch at a heavily discounted price of 29,999 only. Winners always take action, guys. If you are contemplating appearing for 2024, then make the most of this opportunity and avail for this batch so that your preparation can be given a right direction. On that note, let us now go ahead and try to understand the structure of essay writing as such. First, I will give you what the structure of essay looks like, and then we will take up the specific topic and go into handling that topic per se. Essay, first and foremost, when we go linear-wise reading, the first part of the essay is, of course, the introduction of it. Essay's introduction or introductory part is thereabout of 20% of its total, you can say, length or its word count. This is not hard and fast, of course. There is A lot of scope for it being a little less or more, but tentatively about 20% of the essay shall deal with the introductory part. This will include your opening of the essay. Opening of the essay will have two paragraphs. First paragraph will be about an opening story, anecdote, quote, maybe a case study. There can be multiple ways in which an essay can be opened. In one paragraph, we describe the story, anecdote, quote, lines from poetry, lyrics of songs. It could be any different way of doing it. As long as the content of it is relevant to the topic, we can use multiple methods for starting our essay. Remember, introduction is very crucial because that is where you grab the attention of the examiner. And it also shows how well you have understood the topic. Therefore, this first paragraph is very crucial to deliver the impact on the reader. You know, in English they say, first blow is half the battle. First blow is half the battle. And this is definitely the first blow, guys. So we have to do it very effectively. How we are going to come to it when we discuss the ideation stage. Second aspect is, or second paragraph is the linking paragraph. What is the linking para? The linking para connects this opening paragraph with the body of the essay. It actually is connecting the keywords of the given topic with the story that we have used in the opening para. A lot of students make the mistake of writing only the introductory story, case study, etc., and do not really connect it to the demand of the topic. This leads to confusion sometimes in the minds of the examiner as to how the story or the poetry, whatever you have used, is actually relevant to the topic. So we have to very clearly link what we are saying to the demand of the topic. Sometimes students find it difficult. They feel that we are, stating very obvious things. Why should we state such basic and obvious things? Well, guys, in essay, you have to sometimes state the obvious. Okay? Because we have to provide our content on a platter to the examiner. We have to leave no scope of any wrong interpretation, confusion, or lack of understanding. And for this purpose, when we craft a beautiful introduction, in the second paragraph itself, we clearly link it to the given topic using its keywords. Okay, how we do that, we'll come to it in some time. After we are done with these two paragraphs, then comes defining of the keywords. The topic will often have certain words which are used metaphorically. So what we have to do is, we have to exfoliate, we have to open up that keyword and explain what it can mean in different situations. We have to define it in such a manner that it can entail multiple different things at one time. That is defining of the keywords given in the topic. This definition that you will give of the keywords will bring you and the examiner on the same page regarding the topic. You might be interpreting the keywords in a different way from what the examiner might be thinking. If that happens, then there is lack of coherence. We cannot allow that to happen. We have to have a common understanding about what the keywords are, and therefore defining of the keywords is crucial over here, guys. After defining the keywords, we can say maybe take 2 to 3 paragraphs thereabout for explaining, exfoliating the keywords. Then we go into the main part of the essay, which is the body of the essay. The body of the essay will have about 70% of its weightage. This again is not hard and fast. These are rules of thumb, not exact parameters to judge things on. It can be a little more, a little less also. First and foremost, in the body, we will provide the thesis statement regarding the essay. Now, what is meant by thesis statement? Thesis statement, guys, is your nuanced view, opinion, interpretation about the given topic. Here you tell the examiner that this is how I see this topic. You may agree with the topic. In some situations, you may disagree with the topic also, or there can be a middle ground as well, a nuanced position, a stand as well. You have full right to take any stance on the topic. That is not what is the problem. The challenge is how you are later going to convince the reader examiner about the validity of the stance that you have taken. That is the challenge of the essay. Suppose it so happens that your opinion on the topic and the examiner's opinion are, for example, different. The examiner is not going to mind that. But what he wants to say is, whatever opinion you have, are you able to argue it well later? If you're able to argue it well, then you can have any opinion on the given topic. In most cases though, you either agree with the topic with some objection handling, or you generally take a nuanced position. It is very unlikely, though not impossible, that you will disagree with the topic completely. Okay, but it can happen. There are certain topics where you can disagree as well, and in due course, in certain other lectures, we will discuss these topics as well. So this is first and foremost what is meant by thesis statement. In a paragraph of about 3 to 4 sentences, we state our view, our opinion about the given topic. That is called as our thesis statement. Then, after this, in a couple of paragraphs, we try to substantiate the wisdom that the thesis statement talks about. In quick 2 paragraphs, or maybe a couple of paragraphs more, we can give examples from positive and negative side about the wisdom of the topic, and in a way show how that wisdom is relevant and applicable across space and time. That is called as substantiation of the topic. This will be for about 2 to max 4 paragraphs, not more than that. After this comes the stage of arguing. In arguments, you are going to present 3 to 4 quality arguments which prove why your stance or your wisdom, your understanding of the wisdom of the topic is valid and relevant. Here we have given only examples. Here we are going to give the reason as to why it is so. Okay. And this why is going to be supported with examples and explanation. So arguing an essay is basically answering why the wisdom as you see it is relevant or it is applicable. And for this, to give an effective argument, you provide a claim which is an answer to the reason why, to the question why. Support it with some evidence. This evidence can be in the form of example, it can be in the form of data, it can be in the form of some indices, so on and so forth. There can be many different ways of supporting. And then explain how it proves your point. When these 3 things are combined together, the claim, the evidence, and explanation, together it forms what we call as a argument. That is what is called as argument. So we need to give quick 3 to 4 arguments which will support our thesis statement. Okay? Why this thesis statement is valid, it is applicable, is what we are talking about. Then we come towards prescribing. We will give certain challenges regarding implementing that vision of the topic, and then also provide a few solutions. A UPSC aspirant, guys, has to be prospective, pragmatic, and prescriptive. 3 P's there. Prospective means future oriented, looking ahead in time, prospective. He has to be pragmatic. What do we mean by pragmatic here? He has to be pragmatic, as in he has to be practically oriented and not just a blind idealist. So prospective which means future or forward looking. Second is pragmatic, which means not a blind idealist. He is a practically oriented person. And third aspect is prescriptive, a person who is able to provide solutions and ideas. A civil services aspirant must be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Therefore, it is important that you provide solutions and ideas for the challenges that you have raised. These three P's will come towards the end of the essay over here. You can also add objection handling in the body part, where we try to take a nuanced view of the other side. The wisdom that we understand about the topic can have a counter side also. There will be another side in many cases. By handling that part, we tell the examiner that, see, I am not blind towards my opinion alone. I am able to factor in the other view as well. That part is called as objection handling. These are the contents of the body. Then comes the last part of your essay, which is conclusion. This will be the last 10% part of your essay. A lot of candidates do all the hard work in the earlier or aforesaid parts of the essay, and then by the time it is conclusion, they are mentally drained off and they just want to wind up the essay as early as possible. Don't make that mistake, guys. Conclusion is where the examiner again will very cautiously read what you are saying. Conclusion is a great opportunity to show the examiner that, see, I have the stamina to last till the very end. I have not just haphazardly concluded my essay. That will show that you are a person who is skilled, who has planned out the entire exercise very well. And when you argue effectively, or you hammer your point effectively in the conclusion, it will leave a lasting impression on the examiner. That is when he decides in his mind finally that this is the score that I want to give for this essay. So when he decides or takes that final call, we want to give our best shot over there. And a lot of candidates, their essays peak and suddenly it whimpers out, peters out towards the end. Don't let that be your case. You must write effective conclusions. How to do that? Writing effective conclusion requires that you write 2 paragraphs in conclusion. In 1 paragraph, you summarize what you have said. Thesis statement you have written, bring that back again, but in a different way, in different words. Don't repeat the exact same words. Get the essence of it and repeat it in a different way. Okay? And then give a summary of the arguments that you have presented. Briefly summarize your arguments. This will be the penultimate paragraph. And the last paragraph is when you comment, give a parting shot of the topic. Here in this comment, you can look towards the future and see how this wisdom is going to be applicable for us as we go ahead in time. Connect it with some broader goals that we as a nation or humanity have. You can connect the wisdom to larger challenges that we face. You can also bring in our traditional civilizational values. Like, for example, you can bring in ideas like Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam towards the end and say that whatever the wisdom the topic has given, actually we possess that as a civilization already. It is just that we have lost touch and we have not been able to implement it. If we implement the idea, then it is going to lead to a much better future. Be very cautious about the last sentence that you write. That last sentence should not have any scratching, overwriting. It should not be a weak, loose kind of a sentence. It has to be a very strong kind of a worded statement. Strong worded as in, it must be a sharply worded one, which will tell the examiner that you are a person who has complete clarity of thought. You are basically arguing like a lawyer in this entire piece for your opinion. And just as a lawyer towards the end, or when he rests the case, he gives a final, you can say, justification of what he feels is right. This is what you are doing over here. So don't neglect the art of writing good conclusions. I hope you got the basic structure of the essay, guys. A lot of students face the difficulty of not being able to write such long essays. A lot of students, in fact, have fear in their mind that we have never ever written such long essays of say 1200, 1300 words. Will I be able to write such long essays? So for that reason, let me break down the exercise, guys, for you so that you are able to understand that this exercise, this practice of essay is not so difficult if we simplify it down to basic tasks. If you see, for writing an essay, we get 10 to 11 pages. For convenience sake, let's say 10 pages we have for writing the essay. On an average, you will be writing 2 paragraphs on a page with 3 to 4 sentences each. So effectively, for 10 pages, we are going to write 20 paragraphs. Each sentence of these 20 paragraphs will be about in the range of 16 to 20 words. 16 to 20 words. So if we break it down, each paragraph has 3 to 4 sentences having 16 to 20 words. The total easily comes to around 1200 words. If we see this exercise in this manner, then we are able to understand that it's not a difficult task. We are going to write how many paragraphs effectively? We are going to write 20 paragraphs. Out of these 20 paragraphs, further to make it more visible to you, we have seen that 2 paragraphs will be about the opening. So that is story and linking the story, right? So that is not difficult. Then towards the end, 2 paragraphs will be about the concluding part, right? 3 paragraphs or thereabout will be about defining the keywords. And then 1 paragraph will be about the thesis statement. So if you add up all of this, 2 plus 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Out of 28 paragraphs are gone. So effectively, you require 12 good points for 12 paragraphs that we are going to write. 12 good points for writing 12 good paragraphs. 1 paragraph will be about 1 point basically. Okay. These paragraphs are not about specific points. These are about some larger things. How many points we require? We require 12 to 14 thereabout good quality points. Even for a 15 marker answer, we require that sort of a content, having 12 to 13 good points to fetch good marks in 15 marker. And here we have an essay which is 125 marks each, 2 essays. So for 125 marks, should the expectation of 12 to 14 good points not be there? Is it not a fair and legitimate expectation? In my view, it certainly is a fair expectation. That is what we are going to do. All the extra content that you're going to write will be about arguing these things. Okay. Points effectively are going to be in that range, 12 to 14 good quality points. All right. I hope you got that, guys. Now, before I go into the specific topic, here is my Telegram channel, Jawwad Kazi UPSC preparation. And this is the QR code for it. I've already shared a lot of content related to essays on my Telegram channel. You may join this and get access to some of the content for value addition, for essay, as well as for general studies. And you'll also get updates about my upcoming videos and series that I have planned. Now, with that out of the way, let us now take up the topic and discuss it threadbare. Should we go about then crafting the kind of essay that we saw in the definition? So for this, let us see the process of ideation. We are seeing what? We are seeing the process of ideation. First is selection, which I'll come to later. Second is ideation. And third is articulation. These are the 3 stages in the classroom for writing an essay. Now let us see how we go about doing our ideation or our rough work. First and foremost, we must divide the topic into convenient parts. Most likely there will be 2 parts to the topic. Sometimes it can also be divided into 3. And then identify the keywords and support words in the topic. Now what is meant by keywords? Keywords includes words which can be interpreted on a metaphorical level. Those words which are not just supposed to be seen in a literal sense. You need to bring out a more deeper meaning or understanding of such words. That is called as such words are called as keywords. I hope you understood this, guys, what is meant by keywords. And what are support words? Support words are those words which are coming in support, but they are not metaphorical. Like, for example, twice over here is an important word because it has a substantial meaning here, but it is not a metaphorical word by itself. Okay? So once we understand and note what are keywords and support words, then we go ahead and try to define these keywords. So let us try to do this exercise. While watching this video, you can maybe pause the video at this point and try to yourself define or exfoliate what the keywords actually mean. Now, this is a very crucial exercise, guys. Francis Bacon, who played a very crucial role in laying the foundation of modern scientific method. Francis Bacon had said, a prudent question is one half of wisdom. What does he say? A prudent question is one half of wisdom. When we write essays, what we need to basically do is, we need to ask the right sort of questions to the topic. If you get the art of asking right questions to the topic, to its keywords, then you will never find it difficult to understand, decode, and argue your stance on it. There's a famous saying in Arabic, it is coming to my mind, and let me share it with you. This famous saying says that the cleverness of a person can be judged from his answers. The cleverness of a person can be judged from his answers, but the wisdom of a person can be judged from his questions. Okay, so the wise man is able to ask the right questions, and that is what we try to do while ideating about the essay, while doing the brainstorming related work. Ask the right sort of questions. So we ask what is meant by you, what is meant by this stepping, what is meant by this river, which are used in a metaphorical sense. We try to ask it, what is its literal meaning, what is its deeper meaning, what are the things that are associated with it, what all deeper and further philosophical aspects can be connected with it, what are its pros, what are its cons. We keep on asking questions to it, and then on the basis of that, we can come to some sort of understanding of that topic. Once you have bombarded this with questions and constantly and simultaneously written down the keywords that come to your mind, then connecting those dots, you can actually build up the understanding of those keywords. Let us see here how we can understand the word you. Now, a lot of these philosophical topics will have these sort of pronouns. I, we, you, all of these type of pronouns. Now, these I, we, you, of course, are not to be seen on a literal level. It's not just about me, it's not just about you. It means, or it addresses a very big gamut of entities. It is not limited to one individual alone, is what we need to understand. Let us see how we can understand this you for the context of the topic. I have tried to give you a sort of a paragraph in which way you can do it. This is not necessarily the only way or the best way of doing it, but just to give you a sense as to how you can interpret the you in the topic, I have tried to give you this para. So we can quickly go through this. The term you in this context extends beyond the individual. It is not just about you, the individual. It extends beyond that and encompasses a wider range of socio-politico-economic entities. It's not just about one individual. It can mean many different types of entities. It could mean communities, nations, humanity at large also. And be used to interpreting things at multiple levels. Individual, above that comes the community, above that comes the society, above that comes nation, above that comes humanity at large, above that comes the whole living world. This is a gradation based on the numbers. This is one way of doing it. Then as an individual, we exist at multiple levels also. We have a physical self, then we have our intellectual or cognitive self. Above that, we have our emotional self. Above that, we have our spiritual self. So there are multiple layers of our existence. So we must be able to understand things at these multiple levels. To start with, it may seem or sound difficult, but as you get used to it, it will become second nature to you to understand things in multiple layers. So this you can mean communities, it can mean nations, it can mean humanity at large. It is also equally applicable to legal persons. This does not have to be a physical person. It can very well be a legal person also. It could be a society as in a trust, a society, an organization, a corporate body. It can mean multiple things. So we try to explain it at the broadest level possible. When we recognize this broad scope of view, we can understand how the ideas and concepts discussed in this context can be applicable in different or varied contexts. When we are able to exfoliate it to the broadest level possible, then we can connect it with different types of contexts. So in this manner, guys, we have tried to understand what is meant by you. Then similarly, what can be the meaning of stepping in something? When you step into something, what does it mean? It means that you get involved into something. Okay, you experience something. You are immersed in a particular activity. That is what is meant by stepping in. River is again a metaphorical word which basically denotes what? It denotes flow. Just as the river flows continuously, similarly time also flows. The water that is flowing in river at this point of time, at this very instance, is not going to be there again. So if you step in the river in the evening and then you go back to the river in the morning, you may feel that you and river are the same, but actually that river has changed because the water has changed. And similarly, you as an individual also keep on constantly changing. Our body keeps on producing newer cells. Okay? So we physically are changing. Our emotional concepts, ideas change, our intellectual ideas change, our spiritual development changes. So constantly we are going through a evolutionary phase within ourselves as well as outside world. Okay, therefore we cannot ever step into the same river twice. That is, we cannot have that same experience again, because however we try, we will always have changed from the last experience, and that experience itself will be different because of change in time. This is what the topic is basically hinting at. So in this manner we can interpret stepping in the river. Okay, and then when we say stepping in twice, what does this mean? Just to quote a very famous couplet over here from Urdu. There's a famous ghazal of Jagjit Singh in which he sings, "Ye daulat bhi le lo, ye shohrat bhi le lo, ye daulat bhi le lo, ye shohrat bhi le lo, चाहे छीन लो मुझसे मेरी जवानी, लेकिन मुझको लौटा दो वो कागज की कश्ती, वो बारिश का पानी." So here in this particular ghazal, the poet is longing for his childhood. He says, "I'm ready to give everything that I have. Okay, but give me that simple and innocent pleasure of being a child in a rainy day, on a rainy day, with a paper boat in his hand. Give me that pleasure. In return, I am ready to give you everything." In this share, again, the writer is hinting that how much ever you might be ready to pay, but you cannot go back to that time. You cannot become a child anymore. That time has gone. Okay, that is what is stepping twice in the same river. You cannot go back to that same experience again. That is the idea of stepping twice in the river. And this topic says that you cannot do that. You cannot have that same experience again. This is what is meant by the topic. I hope you got this, guys. In this manner, you can take a pause on the video and see how this can also be defined, stepping in the same river twice. I hope you got the idea. All right. Now, this was our step number 1. We tried to define the keywords given in the topic. Then in step number 2, we are still part of our rough work, guys. We are doing the ideation thing. In step number 2, we put all of this wisdom together. Whatever we have understood on the basis of keywords, we extract a wisdom out of it and form our thesis statement. We form our view or opinion about the topic. How can we do it in this particular case? This is just one sample of doing it. You need not agree with it 100%, and this may not be the best, but this is just to give you an idea of how you can interpret the keywords and form your opinion about it. Thus, the insight that the topic bestows is that everything in our world, including we ourselves, is constantly changing. It's in a state of flux. Change is the only thing that is constant. Constantly things are going to change. That's the only thing that is constant. And therefore, what do we need to do? Now, here comes a very key and crucial point. A lot of students just limit their thesis statement to bare minimum understanding of the topic. You don't go beyond the basic understanding and tell the examiner, so what do we need to do? Once you have got the base understanding of the topic, then I suggest what is called as the so what test. The so what test. Whatever you have understood in the topic, ask to it so what. Okay, so the topic is saying that we cannot ever have that same experience again. So what? So it means that change is constant, and if change is constant, then what we must do? We must embrace this change. We must accept this change. We must not become limited or ossified to the past. We must not just remain limited, rooted into the past. Instead, what we must do? We must constantly evolve and engage in the world around us. We have to keep on doing that. If we don't do it, if we don't embrace change, if we don't move on, then what happens is you become obsolete, you become irrelevant, you become useless for the society around you. And for this reason, you need to keep on accepting and moving on with the times. This is the wisdom of the topic. I hope you got this, guys. I hope you understood the idea of how you bring out the wisdom using the key words of the topic. Now, this was step number 2. In step number 3 in ideation, and this is going to go on simultaneously while you're doing the rough work. You have to try to find out examples that are relevant to the wisdom of the topic, which helps substantiate your thesis statement to the examiner, to the reader. In the actual essay, after the thesis statement, in a couple of paragraphs, you are going to provide examples will justify your take on the topic as you have understood it. Okay, so let me give you a few examples here. First example is that of, say, Chandragupta Maurya. Chandragupta Maurya was a powerful emperor of the largest empire that India had seen until that point of time. And yet he realized that his time as an emperor has come to a fruitful closure, and instead he wants to seek a bigger victory in the form of spiritualism. So he renounces his throne, announces his successor, and leaves his imperial territory, goes to southern India, Shravan-Belagola, and there he attains Kaivalya. Okay? So Chandragupta Maurya understood the wisdom that you cannot remain rooted to the past. You have to embrace change, accept it, and go ahead with it. That helps you to flourish yourself in newer manners. There are very few examples in the world of people who achieved greatest heights into different fields. Chandragupta Maurya is certainly from that elite club. A great emperor, and at the same time, he is also a spiritual giant in that sense. So that is the wisdom of the topic in action. Then the case of the Japanese Meiji Restoration is another good example of it. The Japanese, when Europeans were knocking on their doors, when next doors China was being browbeaten, exploited, and humiliated by all European powers, Japan was still an inward-looking, isolated, and xenophobic country. But it realized that if it does not change at this point of time, then it will meet the same fate as that of its neighbor China. The Chinese say the century from 1848 to 1949, thereabout. From Opium War till the Chinese Revolution. They say this was the century of humiliation for them. And now whatever Xi Jinping and all of those people they're trying to do is in a way erase or avenge that century of humiliation. This is their idea. The Japan was on the brink of facing such a similar century of humiliation, but they understood the wisdom in moving on, changing. Instead of staying rooted in past values, ideas, and institutions, Japan went for this Meiji restoration, which transformed it in a modern way. Within a span of few years, Japan was an industrialized country. It was running the most advanced trains of its times. And soon, like European powers, it also became a major European power, the only Asian to do it in that day and age. Why it could do that? Now, I'm not justifying Japan's imperialism, but what I am trying to hint over here is that Japan understood the wisdom that you cannot stay in the past. You cannot keep on experiencing the past. You have to move on so that you develop, you prosper. Okay? Japan's example can be given in this form. Then Gandhiji, a few examples, guys, to make my point. Gandhiji very staunchly called off the non-cooperation movement because of resort to violence. 1922 Chauri Chaura incident, you all know that. But the same Gandhiji, when he was being forced during Quit India movement to condemn the violence that was happening on the streets of India post the launch of Quit India movement, Gandhiji in British custody defied the Britishers and said he won't do that because the Indians were suffering more and disproportionate violence from the state. So Gandhiji is remaining committed to his idea of non-violence. That has not changed. The value has not changed. But since the situation has changed, earlier it was not the case that Indians were not at the receiving end during non-cooperation movement. But in Quit India movement, the situation has completely changed and Britishers were using bomber planes and tanks. Okay, so Gandhiji said that no, I cannot condemn it because you are using much more disproportionate violence. So Gandhiji has evolved, the freedom struggle has evolved, and therefore we see a different response in this case. That is the wisdom of this topic. You cannot step in the same river twice. Another good example from the field of Bollywood. The more diverse examples that we can bring in from different age, from different times, from different regions, the more interesting our essay can become, the more captivating it can become. Rajesh Khanna had a dream run at the box office from 1969 over the course of next, say, about 4 to 5 years. But after that, he saw a sudden slump. Parallelly, there was rise of the angry young man, Amitabh Bachchan. Rajesh Khanna, who was a cult star, he could not somehow come to terms with this altered scenario. And he remained ossified in the past about his great glory from 69 to say 73, 74 till that point of time. And because he could not move on and come out of it and accept the change, go on with the things, he remained in his own cocoon and we don't hear about him professionally after that. Whereas Amitabh Bachchan, if you see, he suffered many downfalls, but every single time he accepted it and he moved on with it. Okay, and that made him come back even stronger every single time. Rajesh Khanna, on the other hand, he became irrelevant, so to speak, in his industry because he could not come to terms with it. Whereas Amitabh Bachchan always accepted, moved on, took on the challenges, and therefore every time he came back even stronger. And at the age of around 80, I don't know the exact number, he is still selling so many products to you on the TV screen. He is still the most popular face, the most, you can say, trusted brand as such in India, arguably is Amitabh Bachchan. Why? Because he accepted the wisdom of the topic. We can talk about climate change similarly. Climate change is a reality. We can't just keep on harping on the past, that our earlier times were so good. Climate change is taking place. You see the erraticness of monsoon that we are experiencing now. Last year, even during Diwali, it was raining. So these things are changing. We have to accept and then move on accordingly. So this can be one example. Case of Satya Nadella. Microsoft, its fortunes were ebbing. It was no more in that elite group of companies like Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, so on and so forth. Because Microsoft was fixated with its traditional product like operating systems. Satya Nadella comes around and sees that that time has gone. We have to move and change. We need to bring in newer technologies, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, okay, then machine learning. All of these things he tries to bring in Microsoft, and in a span of few years, Microsoft again becomes part of that elite club. Why? Because that wisdom was understood and accepted by Satya Nadella. You can't step in the same river twice. You can't just live in that old grandeur. You have to accept the reality of today and then move ahead. That is the concept that the topic tells us. One last quick example to just make my point over here. Some years ago, Britain's Prime Minister had come to India. David Cameron was the Prime Minister back then. And when he had come to India, very honestly and very humbly, he had said that I don't come here as a Prime Minister of a former colonial master. I come here as a country which is seeking jobs from India, economic opportunities, trade opportunities from India. So that clearly shows that the British Prime Minister understood that he cannot live in that glory of the past, that sun never sets on our empire. That is gone. He has to move on. If he does not move on, India will not lose. It will be his country who will lose the opportunity. So that is the application of the wisdom of the topic in international relations. So if you see over here, guys, we have given examples from history, we have given examples from environment, we have given examples from international relation. We try to bring in multiple things. Brainstorm about the examples, but when you substantiate after the thesis statement, give 2 to max 4 paragraphs of substantiation, not more than that. Then get down to arguments. And while arguing, again, you have to support your claim with examples. These examples can then be weaved over there. If you have more examples, they can be weaved into your arguments. Now, this brings us to the question then, what is meant by argument? Argument is, as I told you, claim plus evidence plus explanation. What is this claim? This claim answers the why of the topic. You have taken a stand on the topic and then you ask it why. The answer that you get is the claim that you have to give over here. To make it easy, we have accepted the stance that yes, we cannot step back into the same river twice, which means we cannot live in the past experience. We cannot relive it back again. We have to always keep on moving ahead, accepting change. So the question that we have to ask is, why do we need to do this? Why in the first place we have to accept that change? The first answer that can come to us is at a physical level. We evolve physically, our bodies change, and therefore what we could probably do several years ago, that is not possible for us now. Sachin Tendulkar was a great batsman. And when he used to bat, there used to be curfew-like situation on the roads back then, in 90s. But now if that same great little master is made to bat against the best bowlers of our times today, most likely he will not be able to even be a pale shadow of those times. Why? Because his reflexes, his eyesight, his physical fitness, all of those things have changed over the time. So physically, we keep on evolving and we just can't limit ourselves to earlier times. As human beings also, we have evolved tremendously physically. What we were able to do, say 40, 50 or 100 years ago, physically speaking, that is not possible for us today. Today, we are facing problems of diabetes. We are facing a lot of lifestyle diseases. We have young actors as young as 28 and 32 falling to heart attacks. So what has changed? Physically, we are changing. We have to accept that and change ourselves accordingly. Similarly, there is intellectual or cognitive changes that come about. Our understanding of things changes. And based on our newer understandings, we, see our world. If we don't change according to our evolved cognitive level, then we will be stuck in the past. We don't want that. Similarly, changes take place at multiple levels. In this manner, guys, we can build up some claims which explain the why of our stand. And for these claims, then we are supposed to give evidence. Evidence here means examples. case studies, data, facts, figures, etc., which support the claim. And this claim actually supports our thesis statement. This is how it is built up. Okay? This explanation connects the claim and evidence so that it becomes clear to the examiner as to how these two are linked. So we have to give a little bit of explanation. This is how we develop arguments in our essay. I hope you got this point, guys. Developing arguments. Now, let us see one more part of our essay, which is handling objections. There is most likely going to be a counter side to the view that we have taken, to the stand that we have taken. And in our essay, we have to handle that counter side also. We have to make room or space for that counter side. That is called as handling objections. Now, in this essay, for example, we have argued that we have to evolve and accept change because we cannot go back to the past. We cannot step back in the same river twice, which means what? We have to accept change, we have to move on. But does that mean that past is always something that is bad? Are we so anti-past? Are we so against our own history that we don't want to value it at all? No. We explain here in objection that past has its own significance. Through past, we understand our present and we profit and benefit out of it. So when we are moving on, it does not mean that we are negating the importance of past. We give it due importance and use it to build a better future. This is what we mean by looking at past. So we have to give this explanation as a counter side. I hope you got this. You may have some other views on different types of counter sides. That's absolutely fine. I'm just here sharing what comes to my mind as a counter side to our stance. I'm trying to explain over here that I am not undermining the importance of past. I am only saying that it needs to be used in a specific context only. Okay. This can be one way of handling the objection. Second way of handling the objection can be that although change and moving on is important, but then there are certain things on which you have to remain firm. There you don't have to change or accept new things just because they are new, just because of their novelty value. On certain things, we remain rock solid. These could be our civilizational values. These could be morals and ethics. These could be humanitarian values. This can be basic things like kindness, humanity, such things. On this, we are not going to change. We'll always be firmly rooted on that. This is the idea that we can share. This brings to my mind a quote of US freedom fighter and later its Secretary of State and then President Thomas Jefferson, the great political thinker. First, I think I should mention that, the great political thinker. He had said, on matters of style, it's a beautiful quote, very useful, you can use it in multiple places. On matters of style, swim with the current. On matters of style, swim with the current. On matters of principle, stand like a rock. Okay. So yes, change is important, but what we are changing, that is also important. So we will not change on core values, ideas, principles, virtues. Those will always remain. So this can be two objections: importance of past, and secondly, what needs to be immutable, what needs to be kept constant forever. This way we can handle some objections. Okay. After handling the objections, then comes brainstorming about what can be the outcome of not accepting the wisdom of this topic. When somebody does not accept the wisdom of the topic, then what happens to him? In that case, it leads to false pride. A lot of people have pride that their great ancestors had done something, very remarkable. Okay. A lot of nations take pride that their forefathers were great. Okay, fine, that is part of history and we all share that collective heritage. But that pride should not hold you back from achieving greatness in your own life. When people don't accept change, they keep rooted in that ancient pride. And such people then have a false sense of confidence about themselves, that we are the descendants of so and so. We are part of an institution which has such a big legacy. Okay. Yes, the doyens of the institutions were great, but what is the institution doing now? That is what needs to be understood. Such individual institutions and communities, they become stagnant. They don't develop further. They become cynical. They try to criticize other people's successes, other people's achievements, other people's progress. Why? Because they feel they only have the right to be at that elevated status. That is not so. Time is going to change. They slowly become pessimistic, negative, and ultimately they become obsolete. They become irrelevant. Take the example of the company Kodak. There was a time in 80s, 90s also when camera meant only Kodak. But today, you don't even hear about the company. There was a company called as Nokia. Not so long ago, cell phone meant Nokia. It was as synonymous as that. Today, just a few years ago, this was the case. But today, we don't even hear about this company, Nokia. So this is obsolescence. When you don't accept the wisdom of the topic, then you become irrelevant, you become obsolete. Much like many such personalities who were trapped in the past, they also became obsolete, they also became irrelevant. Got this point, guys? Okay. Now, let me just briefly tell you about giving some prescriptions, suggestions, etc. for the topic. Here on the screen, I have tried to give in one paragraph certain prescriptions that you can provide while writing this essay. What are we trying to give solutions to? We accept that the wisdom is relevant, but implementing that wisdom is not easy. That implementation has many challenges. So to overcome the challenges, we need to do something. What do we need to do? Those are the solutions ideas that we are giving over here. So here we can say that we have to build a fundamental shift in our mindset. We have to change our approach towards change orientation. We have to accept reality as it is and come out of the denial mode. Okay, being in that past mode, coming out of that denial of what the reality is. All of this requires some efforts coming out of the comfort zone, taking risk, facing the fear of unknown, providing resources. Satya Nadella spent Microsoft's resources on developing the company in a new dimension. So it requires resources. Then it requires commitment. There will be failures, there will be challenges, there will be difficulties. But if you have that commitment of changing, then you can overcome this. One must therefore demonstrate these things to implement the wisdom of the topic. This is how we give some prescriptions and suggestions. I hope you got this, what I mean by giving prescriptions and suggestions. All right. Now, lastly, how you can introduce the essay. What different ways can be to introduce about the essay. Now, essay's introduction, as I told you, has to be about 2 paragraphs. One will be story and second will be connecting the story to the topic. Now, instead of story, you can also start with some example from movies as well. To bring in variety in your essay, you can experiment with different types of introduction. Say the first essay that you are writing, it can be an anecdote or case study, and the second essay will be a fictional story. Or you can have a combination of 2 different stories which shows contrast. So try to develop multiple ways of introducing your essay so that there will be variety. Variety is the spice of life, they say. You know, a good bowler keeps on varying his line, length, pace, bounce, all of these things. Why? So that the batsman is kept guessing. Similarly, we have to keep the examiner guessing as to what is coming next. For that, we must have variety. So movies can be used. One good movie that comes to my mind is Benjamin Button. Very interesting story. A boy who is born 80 years old, and then his life goes in reverse. So he is an old man when he is born, and then as he advances, he becomes younger and younger till he dies as an infant. That is the story of Benjamin Button. And his love interest in the movie, she is a regular human being who is advancing as her age advances. And both of them cross at the point of adulthood. And how their relationship flowers. That also tells beautifully the story, the wisdom of this topic itself. Okay, so you can start with such movies example also to make an impact, to make it more interesting. Hindi movies also can be used. I'll not go into the details, but Waqt was one such movie from the yesteryears. We can create a story also. We can create a fictional story. Use this CAR model. What does this CAR stand for? First, conditions. Second, conflict. Third is action. And fourth is result. This is CAR. Conditions, conflict, action, and result. CAR model. So we can take up, say, a fictional case of a girl, Bimla, who is residing in the interiors of Madhya Pradesh in a small village in a particular district. Name any particular district. Okay. So she is residing over there and she comes from an extremely poor family background. That is the conditions of her life. Conflict, she wants to study and become an officer for the government of India, but her family wants to marry her off early because it then becomes difficult to marry off girls who are older in age in that society, in that region. That is the conflict part of it. Now, Vimla does not succumb to all this pressure and she takes up self-employment in the form of tuition classes, supports herself away from her family and prepares for civil services exam, for example. And after a lot of struggle and hard work, she ultimately achieves the dream of her life and she becomes an IAS or IPS officer. So what have we done? We have shown the story in these 4 dimensions. We first spoke about the conditions. Then we spoke about the conflict in Vimla's life. Then we demonstrated what action she took and then the outcome or result of that action. So this is CAR model. In one paragraph, we tell the story. Second paragraph, we have to connect that story of Vimla to the topic. How Vimla's story actually encapsulates the essence of the topic, we will explain it in the second paragraph. Okay. Then we can bring in case studies. I've already told you a case study of Microsoft. Now, case study is a real life situation where some condition and conflict existed. It led to some action and outcome. That is real life. So that's why it's called as a case study. We can bring in some quotes also. Now, yes, philosophical essay, it is difficult to start with a quote. But if the essay is more towards the GS based themes, then you can definitely use quotes as well. Okay, because philosophical topic itself is a quote. So sometimes it is difficult to start a quote topic with a quote. So that's why you can use it more for GS thematic topics. Then we can start with lyrics of songs. Rajesh Khanna's, a very iconic movie of Rajesh Khanna has a very famous song, जिंदगी के सफर में गुजर जाते हैं जो मकाम, जिंदगी के सफर में गुजर जाते हैं जो मकाम, वो फिर नहीं आते, वो फिर नहीं आते. So those stages in life that we pass, they are never to come back, and that is what the topic is telling us. You cannot step back into the same river twice. So these kind of lyrics can also help us. Of course, when you write it in this manner, you have to provide the translation also. You can write Hindi lyric or poem in Roman form and then immediately give its translation and connect it with the demand of the topic. Okay. Poetry can also be used. I gave you a couplet earlier that is also relevant to start the essay. So these are different ways in which you can start. Now, how to conclude? I've already told you this. 2 paragraphs to conclude. One is to summarize the stuff, and then second paragraph is giving a broad, open-ended kind of a comment. See, your conclusion must bring a sense of finality to your write-up. Just as in a good song or movie, towards the end, we realize that we have reached a finishing point. You know, in the song, the notes will slowly start to ebb. In the story, we will have the feeling of, okay, the story has come to an end. Unless it is a Bahubali-like movie, where it ends with, Katappa ne Bahubali ko kyun mara? Because they wanted to keep a conscious question alive for the next sequel. But we don't want to appear for the next main examination in the form of a sequel. We want to clear the exam this year itself. Okay. So don't let examiner become the Katappa and you the Bahubali. Instead, write your essay in such a manner that it ends with a sense of completion, of fruition. And for that, this structure is quite helpful. In this manner, guys, we can write the essay on this topic. Well, guys, there's a lot more to share about how you can write philosophical essays. Let me know in the comment box how you found today's session. Whether you like this idea of taking up a previous year's topic and discussing it in this manner. Leave your comments here down in the comment box, and if I find sufficient response, then I will definitely take up more such videos, practical hands-on videos about how to write essay effectively. But for that, I will have to see your response in the comment box below, guys. On that note, let me call it a day over here for this particular video. I will see you in another video with different subjects, with different topics. See you in my next class. Thank you very much. Good day to all.